In 2020, the outbreak of a global pandemic caused by COVID-19 forced thousands of faith communities to confront a unique challenge: either live stream their services or close entirely. As a result, clergy quickly had to adapt to this new reality, and within a short period of time, over 85% of congregations began broadcasting services. Now, 4 years later, approximately 75% of U.S. congregations continue to offer virtual participation alongside in-person services, establishing hybrid worship as the new norm in religious practice. Calling themselves the world's largest progressive church, Sunshine Cathedral in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, has found a way to use their hybrid worship space to affirm the value of all people, particularly the LGBTQ+ community and their allies.
Tell us a little bit about Sunshine Cathedral. What is your guys' outreach and mission specifically towards the LGBTQ+ community?
Well, that's it. And what we discovered, a lot of churches are welcoming, are affirming up to a point, or maybe even entirely, but there's still not the celebration of one's difference. It's nice that you let me be myself, or that you let me to have my husband, or you let me serve in ministry, but there are some things uniquely that are unique to being a queer person. And so to have that named, to have that celebrated, to have that featured, that's important. We're from the southern A states. I'm Arkansas, he's Alabama. And we came here from graduate school. This church needed a liturgist and an education minister. And so we were recruited. I was the liturgist, he was the education minister. And then a year later, I was elected to be the senior minister, as the person who hired us retired. And so,
no nepotism.
Yeah, I didn't hire him. Also, I didn't fire him, I'd be a fool. We work together in tandem, and we do, as a team, things that individually we could not do.
While Sunshine Cathedral hosts several in-person worshipers, thousands participate virtually each week, fully integrated into the church community.
And I've always said that if we'll let people know what we're selling, somebody's looking to buy just that, but you got to let them know. And so we thank and bless all open and affirming churches. We're just something a bit more.
And I think even queer people come here to discover themselves and come out again also. And it's not just, a message. This message is not a one message that fits all. It fits you, and you take what you need from it, and you can come out with whatever you need from that. And so I think, even as Darrell was saying, like, a lot of that is also new to queer people as well, or gay people who are coming here, because a lot of them are coming from a place of hurt, or a place of shame, a place of being kicked out, or whatever. Straight people who've been in previous relationships, they can come here and they can all be affirmed. And I think that affirmation of people is really what takes people by surprise. Do they really mean what they say? We've heard this in a lot of churches, but do they really mean that I'm welcome here as whatever I'm coming from or whatever I'm coming into? And then again, I discovered, yeah, I really am welcome here, and all of who I am is welcome here. I don't have to check my sexuality at the door. I can bring all of who I am into this place.
I come from a very religious family, Southern Baptist, so religion was always a part of who we were growing up. Obviously, as a gay man, I knew that my place was not in that particular religion. It wasn't until I moved to South Florida that I found Sunshine Cathedral, heard about there were churches that were gay churches, and I'm like, what?
So I grew up Catholic. At about 13, I did my confirmation, and that's when I started questioning the teachings of the church. And about that time, I think I stopped going to church. I still believed in God. I just didn't feel that my God was everything they said. Later on, when I met Dennis years later, I was still kind of in the same thing where I still believed in God. I had no issues. I didn't need to go to church to be with God. And Dennis is like, oh, you should go to my church. My church is really cool. I'm like, I don't need church. I'm good. So I didn't want to go at first. And then finally, I was like, one of these days I'll go. And I finally went. And from day one, it was like this healing that I didn't know I needed. And I think it was like 2 or 3 months that I just cried. And it was just the weirdest thing. It was just healing that I didn't know.
To be told that, you're not a mistake, and that you are loved, and God loves you just the way you are. And hearing that week after week, just like Tito, I did the same thing, and I cried I don't know how long I cried. I was looking for somewhere for me to fit in. I was looking for community. I was looking for, where does God fit into my life? And to share similar stories to others who go to church as well, who have lived similar lives that I've lived, right? And gone through the same struggles that I've gone through. And finally, to find a place that says, you're welcome just at the way you are, and you are perfect the way you are. And that God loves you no matter what. You can't get away from that, right? So that's what I was looking for. And then when I found it, it's like, wow, and how can you not want to share it? So of course I would invite him and be like, you should go. You should go. You should go.
That kind of liberation happens in healthy, loving community. Anytime you learn to not love yourself, you learn that in toxic community. And when you learned that that was lying, you could love yourself, you learn that in healthy community. Community matters. We feed people in our community. We participate in and even host fundraisers for our communities. We entertain our community. We offer hospitality to our community. People in our community get sober here, and we partner with other members of our community to provide dozens of needed services. People watching online today, welcome home to this blessed community. We hope you'll visit us on site whenever you get a chance. But if you never set foot on this property, you're part of this community, and we value you and we bless you. And newcomers to the room, if this is your first time or your 10th time or your 100th time, if you are here in the room, even for the first time, welcome home. And if we never see you again, this is still your home. We hope to see you as often as possible because the love in this room is healing and life-giving, and it will build us up.
My name is Jade Fernandez. This is my beautiful wife,
Mirja Sequeira.
and we have been coming to Sunshine Cathedral together since 2016. I found it, I moved down to Florida, and I said, hey, I need something that I feel like I can fit in. Religion has been a really weird thing, growing up. I lived in lots of different places throughout the States, and it's been a weird thing and lots of pressures. So I needed some place where I could feel most comfortable and fit in and not told what I needed to think, but given the space to be able to think. And then we met and made magic. And I said, hey, honey, about this church. And she said, let's do it.
And I think when it comes to faith, and in God, a lot of people have different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born and raised in a Catholic background, and I know what it is. And I know what it is to feel guilty, and I know what it is to feel that you're a sin, that you are so many things, the judgment. And I have told people, like, it's different. You can be whoever you are. God loves you in whatever shape. It doesn't matter whatever choice, and that's what you're going to feel there. It's not about your faith. We are all praying to the same God, and you're free to do whatever you want to, as long as you're respecting the people that are there.
We're trying to spoil and overturn power systems that promote and protect and defend homophobia and sexism and misogyny and racism. That the queer theory, we're trying to queer systems that are innately unjust. No one should depart this life without hearing that there is an everlasting love that will never and can never let them go.
It was Christmas Eve, and it was the second service. And so I go to Darrell and said, hey, what did you think about if we do the last service Facebook Live?
On a cell phone.
On a cell phone.
From the front row.
And he hemmed and he hummed.
Oh, I guess.
And we didn't tell anybody that we were doing it. So we had our volunteer. He actually ended up in the balcony because put his microphone there. And we didn't tell anybody we were doing this. And so we went Facebook Live on that Christmas Eve. And I think when it was said and done that night,
by the benediction, there was 250.
There was 250 watching it.
By the end of the next day, Christmas, it was 1,000.
And then by the end of that week, it grew even more because it was being shared. And I think that was kind of the eye opener. We're on to something, but we didn't know how. And it was just
months later how it came to us.
Like we didn't know what we were on to, and it's like, holy crap! It's like Christmas Eve, just on a whim. And then when we told everybody after the service, oh, by the way, just so you know, we did the service Facebook Live. People it's like, we did what?
Well, today we are concluding our Creation Tide series.
Well, I think when we first got here, our setup was there was one little camera up in the balcony. We would record that service.
A volunteer
would record that service with like one little handheld camera. They would take that footage home, then edit it, and it would be uploaded to YouTube later that night, or sometimes the next day, or sometimes the next day. So that was kind of the shift of what was happening when we first got here. And then as we looked into more stuff, we tried to expand some. But fortunately, that all changed with COVID also. And we're just in the midst of a change when COVID happened, and that's when we kind of burst into the scene real different in a kind of way.
Exploring the pandemic impact on congregations research shows that hybrid churches with higher virtual attendance have grown significantly in the past 3 years. Sunshine Cathedral exemplifies this trend. Its weekly virtual attendance increased from 20,500 pre-COVID to 156,000 post-pandemic.
Well, here's the thing. Before COVID, that place was packed. I can tell you, I've been there, I've spoken there many times, and they were always packed. COVID changed the world, I believe. We didn't even know the word Zoom before COVID. Most people didn't. The churches that didn't make it through COVID are they're gone. Because they couldn't relate to the technology. They tried, they just couldn't do it.
We birthed a new church at the beginning of a pandemic. And it wasn't really your regular, normal bricks and mortar type of birthing a church or planting a church or starting a church. We started a church without walls at the beginning of a pandemic, and that reached so many people around the globe.
And it's grown exponentially.
And a lot of folks are still with us. They're still watching us. They tagging here, tagging there.
It's happening out television network. Mm-hmm. They came to us a year or so after Pulse because it was one of their leaders had a very close friend that was killed in Pulse. And so just the whole queer and spiritual and, it became a passion of his. And so they reached out to us. I used to say I was afraid to be cost prohibitive. It's cost challenging, but so is anything you do that matters to you. So it's about prioritizing. And this has become one of our big priorities. And Brian in Washington, D.C., and Johnny from Grosse Isle, Michigan. Actually, she's from here, but she's with us in Grosse Isle visiting family. But that's how it happened. Is they came to us, they offered us a product, and now it's a product so good, we can't imagine living without it.
With the help of Happening Out television network, Sunshine Cathedral broadcasts their services live to platforms like Facebook and YouTube. With a highly skilled broadcast team, this congregation averages 200,000 viewers across all platforms weekly. According to Exploring the Pandemic Impact on Congregations research, significantly larger percentages of hybrid congregations are more likely to be comprised mostly of in-person worship attendees. In other words, even when given the option to watch services online, most people in these hybrid churches still prefer to attend in person. However, for Sunshine Cathedral, many online attenders love the virtual format, some even holding on to their regular Sunday morning rituals.
I get dressed on Sunday morning as if I was walking into church. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you this, but the lovely people from the cathedral gave me my official mug. And honestly, it makes me feel like I'm right there, because they sent it to me and they wanted me to have it. And so this is how I received my communion. I truly felt I was in the room and that I had one-on-one contact. Not that I was watching a movie that I could pause and get the ending some other time. It truly, you do feel like you're there.
I went to visit a young man in a hospice facility for people with AIDS. Bless you. Please cover that.
Sometimes I remind myself if I'm laughing, they can't hear me laughing, so it's okay if I can't stop before everybody else stops, because I really do get so drawn in. It truly combines what I think I've always been looking for. And that is that you feel loved and part of a family. My big dream is that I will be there someday, and I'll make a trip and I'll get to see it But I know if I walk in there, I'm going to recognize everything.
I was just at a conference in Missouri, and a woman who was in hospice drove from Michigan to Missouri to hear me. Who am I? I don't know this woman. And she watches this every Sunday. In this time in her life where there's a lot of uncertainties and a lot of scary news, somehow she found us, and that encourages her, and she loves us. And she heard I was going to be, she's not even a member of this organization that I was speaking at, but she heard that I was going to be speaking there. She only knows me from the broadcast. She, in what may be the last 6 months of her life, drove from Michigan to Missouri to hear her pastor, who didn't even know he was her pastor, speak. That's what this broadcasting ministry has done. If it never gets better than this, I'm so proud of what we do and what we stand for and what made it possible.
Sunshine Cathedral is a different kind of church where our God is love. Kindness is our worship. Compassion is our prayer. The sacred value of all people is our creed, and healing the hurts caused by hatred is our mission. This is the day that has been made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Hybrid church patterns may vary depending on tradition, but it is possible for a robust spiritual community to flourish, given the right message, method, and a little bit of effort.